Hey everyone, welcome to Beginnings, the show that asks, where do creative people come from? My name is Andy, I'm the host of the show and a writer and performer based in Los Angeles, California. I'm recording this intro. We just found out the president has COVID, and honestly, I have a very light feeling. That was what that giggle was a little bit earlier. A very light feeling in my chest. Yes, folks, this is where I have been driven to. The edge of Schadenfreude. Heavy on the Freude. But you know what? You know what gives me continual Freude? It is today's episode. This is Tim Smith. If you don't know who Tim is, let me read you his bio. From 1999 to 2012, Tim Smith was the singer, guitarist, and principal songwriter for the indie rock band Midlake. During his tenure, the band recorded a number of EPs and 3 highly regarded albums, Bamnen and Silver Cork, The Trials of Van Occupanther, and The Courage of Others. In 2012, though, Tim left the band to pursue his own projects, and since then has been recording under the name Harp. So I recorded this one back towards the beginning of the quarantine. This might have been like this could have been like the first or second, somewhere, one of the very early interviews I did. But what I've been doing is just kind of releasing them as the zeitgeist goes, I suppose. I've been releasing them when it feels right too. So there were a lot of ones, especially during, as last week's guest, Psalm 1, called the Civil Rights Remix that's been going on since the murder of George Floyd. You know, I've been releasing a lot of episodes that were more timely, and this felt a little more, not to feed into the themes of what we talk about, but a little more, I was going to say eternal, but evergreen, a little more evergreen. I found this to be absolutely fascinating. Tim's a pretty soft-spoken person, and it takes a little bit of time. This is one of those ones I call a slow burn. It takes a little bit of time to figure out what the creative engine in Tim's heart is. But when we get there, oh boy, it is fascinating. And Tim is just a very cool person. I was really glad we got to spend an hour talking about... I won't spoil it too much, but we really get into what faith is to him specifically, and how that influences the music he makes. So I hope you enjoy this. If you do, why not check out other episodes of the show? You know, if you're into indie rock, for example, I have talked to, at this point, hundreds of musicians, mostly indie rock and or experimental around those, a lot of jazz musicians too. Tim got his start in jazz. If you go to Spotify or beginnings.libsyn.com, you can download all the episodes. Well, I've talked to everyone from Carl Newman to Will Cullen Hart from Olivia Tremor Control, Sadie Dupuis of Speedy Ortiz. She just put out a new album. Why not listen to the interview I did with her? Ellen Kempner of Palehound, Dean Wareham of Luna, tons of other people. Too many to name here for real. If you like what you hear, though, and you want to subscribe to the show, you can do that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon, Google, tons of other places. And you can always find me on social media, even though it is a terrible, terrible place to be. I am still there just writing jokes. You can find me at Andy Beckerman. Or on Instagram. It's a lot of cat and dog pictures. So, if that floats your boat. Anyway, great episodes coming up, including Owen Pallett from Final Fantasy and Arcade Fire, Thurston Moore from Sonic Youth, Cy Spurrier, the wonderful comics writer, and tons of other people. So stay tuned. But for now, let's talk to Tim. You live in North Carolina, right?
I do. I do now. Yeah, just 2 years ago I moved here.
From Texas?
Yeah.
Is that where you're from originally?
Basically, I was born in Tennessee, but I was a baby and we moved to Texas.
How old were you when you moved to Texas?
Within a year.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
the first year.
Literally,
so I'm a Texan.
There's nothing of Tennessee in you.
No. I wish there were. I'm not a big Texas guy. Like I don't have the Texas pride that most Texans have. I guess maybe I shouldn't say that. But.
Do you think like even Texas people okay, here's a weird thing. I'm from Pennsylvania, and I went to school at the University of Pittsburgh. And in Pittsburgh, even like the punk kids are like pro Steelers. Like, even like the kids in like hardcore bands were like into the sports teams in Pittsburgh. Is that what it's like in Texas? Like even like the guy
sports? Yeah.
Even the guy listening to Black Flag is like a football fan.
Yeah, that is true. It's rampant. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, everybody's a sports fan, I guess. They love their football. They love their football.
But you weren't never?
No, I was never a sports guy. I mean, I guess when I was super little and my dad would watch football and then I'd kind of dress up like a football player and do the plays when I was a really little kid. But no, I was never into sports. I tried some softball, some baseball. Soccer for a while. I played about 3 seasons of soccer when I was really little, and I enjoyed that. But no, music took over, and I was done with any sports.
Was it just like the pure? Like I never liked the competitive aspect of sports, but I enjoyed just playing. Like I play basketball with my friends, and I enjoy the actual act. Like it's the same. Honestly, though, it fills in some kind of same kind of thing in my head that like playing music does or performing does, in which like it's one of the few times I'm like in the moment. I am like there, like present in my entire life.
No. Yeah.
Was it the same kind of thing for you, do you think?
What do you mean, like playing sports?
Yeah.
No. I think it was just it was just a thing you did when you were a kid,
Yeah.
It's like not and I guess I only have two kind of sports that I play now, which are the nerd sports, which are darts and chess. So that's about as athletic as I get now. But so I don't even play basketball or anything around. There's not really a basketball court around here. Right? I mean, we played badminton the other day on the front yard. That's a good quarantine thing to do with the families. That was
I love
fun.
badminton.
But yeah, it's fun.
Sports, I always like, there's something, because I'm a short guy, and I was like really small up until like, whatever, 6th grade, 7th grade. I mean, it's not like I shot up. It's like I grew like a couple inches. So like I just wasn't like tiny. But like sport, like to me, it felt like it was a thing I had to like you had to have a team that you liked.
Oh, yeah. Not so for me, no.
Really? Are you from Denton originally, or is that just where you ended up when you were
San Antonio I guess Denton mostly. After I graduated high school, I went to Denton for school, and then I just stayed there. So the band that I was in, we were in Denton.
Yeah.
So I was there for 15 years.
In San Antonio?
Yeah, I grew up in San Antonio.
I mean, what is that?
Like a suburb.
Oh, it's a suburb. Yeah. What's the city like? I just know it from like movies, I guess. Isn't Pee-wee's Big Adventure, doesn't that end up somewhere in San Antonio?
Yeah, man, he goes to the Alamo.
Yeah.
Wants to see the basement, yeah. And it's San Antonio. I grew up. It's probably about 45 minutes away from like the heart of San Antonio. So I was just in a suburb.
Yeah.
But San Antonio. Yeah, they got the Alamo. They got the Riverwalk. They've got a big kind of Space Needle type thing, a restaurant you can eat at the top of. I think those are the main attractions. Those 3. Those are pretty important. But other than that, no, I don't know.
Is there like, do you have a historical feel? Like when you were growing up there, was it just like I grew up in the suburbs of Reading, Pennsylvania, and it was just the suburbs, like once a week we got Chinese food. If it was a nice time, we would go to TGI Fridays or something like that. There wasn't any sense of like history there. I think once we visited the Reading Railroad, but otherwise it just felt like these kind of like endless suburbs mostly. Is that basically what your childhood was like?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I was in the suburbs, so it was just a bunch of neighborhoods and cookie cutter houses, and you got that's what it is. No long journeys, like no interesting things. I was in the neighborhood, so like my world just consisted of the street that I lived on. So good thing there was about maybe 4, 5, 6 other kids that lived on that street, and then my best friend lived a street away, and so that was great. That was our world, just right there. And there were some fields behind our house, so they're like bamboo and all kinds of different areas of like these fields that hadn't been built on yet, and you can kind of get lost in there. So we'd set up forts and play army and that kind of thing when I was a kid back there. And then I guess we'd play like street football and skateboarding. I forgot I was into skateboarding, so that's something more athletic. I really liked skateboarding when I was in, I don't know, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade.
Was it
skateboarding?
My parents would never let me. I wanted to, but my parents would never let me because I grew up like in the 80s into the early 90s when skateboarding was like a pretty big thing.
Yeah.
And but my parents are so like overcautious that they were like, you're gonna break your neck, you're gonna hurt yourself.
Yeah,
and so
true.
I had like a mid-20s crisis, and I picked up a skateboard for a little time in my mid-20s when I was like, no, but like I like got kicked out of grad school, and my best friend, his girlfriend of 10 years broke up with him. And we were both like 26, I think. And we just were like lost, and we both picked up skateboarding, and we lived in Philly. And we would just go to the supermarket in South Philly after it closed and just go in circles around the parking lot. It was the saddest kind of. Not only was it just the saddest, but like, not only did we feel the saddest, but just the spectacle of like 2 relative adults just going in circles on skateboards around a parking lot.
No tricks.
No. Oh God, no. No. My parents instilled their fear in me. So.
Yeah.
But
true.
The point was you were brave enough to skateboard. You were brave enough to like really do it.
Yeah, they didn't rein me in on that. They just like, go for it, whatever you want. But I did hurt myself a time or two. And then eventually it came too close to like hurting a hand, and so I just had to, I can't do this anymore. Cuz you have to hurt yourself to get good at it. So I couldn't do that.
Were you already playing music by then? Is that why you didn't want to hurt your hand? Or you just like a normal human? I just don't want to hurt my hand.
No, it was the music probably. But yeah, my pain threshold probably isn't very good either.
Yeah. So what brought your parents from Tennessee to San Antonio?
I don't know. Actually, I think they were born in or they had family in Waco, I think at the time. So we probably moved. Yeah, we probably moved to Waco first. But then shortly after to San Antonio. So they were kind of originally from Texas. And I think my dad went to school in Tennessee, and I guess my mom did too, and they met there and then happened to, I don't know. I should probably check in on that. I don't really know the whole story. Something like that.
It's so common on the show. Even when I go to tell a story, and then later on, I'll say it to my dad, and he's like, "That's not why we did this." And I'm like, "Oh, all of us have these like kind of like, unless we've like actually interrogated our parents in some way, we all have these like bits and pieces of what their history is." But I do think it's interesting that somehow those bits and pieces, even though they're not complete, like create who we are in some way.
Yeah, it's good enough for me. It's good enough. All right.
So I mean, what did they do for a living when you were growing up?
Well, several things. I guess the big thing throughout my childhood was the restaurant business, and so my dad always just loved the restaurant business. Always wanted to. That was his thing, and so he opened a barbecue restaurant. As you do. in Texas, and so he had this a barbecue restaurant. It didn't do so well, but then he like closed that one, opened up a new location, try it somewhere else. That one didn't go so well. He tried it somewhere else. So it was just year after years of really struggling. He never filed bankruptcy or anything like that. He just kept at it and tried to make it in the restaurant business. So, and my mom would help out with that. She worked at a medical clinic doing billing and stuff, like kind of secretarial work with that. But she would help out, and it was restaurants. So and then so he kept doing. I mean, he's had other jobs off and on, but restaurant. He just retired this past year from the restaurant business, and so he finally made it. When there's a restaurant, they moved to Kerrville, Texas. It's just a little ways away from where I grew up, and he finally made like a really nice restaurant where everyone in town knows it. They come there, and it does really well. And so he retired from that, and then my brother took that over just recently. So he eventually did it. But when I was a kid, we were very kind of struggling. We didn't have much money or anything like that. It was always kind of scary if the restaurant was going to succeed or how much it would bring in every day.
Oh, wow. I mean, there's two really interesting things from that. One of them is that you grew up with someone in your life that had a passion for something.
Yeah, that's true. He definitely does. Definitely does.
Like, I think it is, when I talk to people on the show whose, like, parents, it doesn't have to be art, right? It doesn't have to be music or writing or whatever like that. But their parents had a passion for something, and then it was, I don't know if you would call it all-consuming, but for someone to, like, okay, this restaurant didn't work, but I'm going to keep going at it. I'm going to keep on.
Yeah, they love it.
That's to have that in your life, I think, do you think it, I mean, it seems like it would influence you, but like, did it consciously influence you, I guess? Did you like pick up on that as a kid or?
I don't know. That's hard to say. I could have just picked up on it without realizing it. But I don't know. I don't know. It seems like his I mean, my desire for, music, and before that was art, I think was already I mean, not the music came a little later, but art at first. And that's, I don't know if I got that from watching my dad struggle with the restaurants. I think it was already something in me.
Interesting. Do you know, like, what was the first, I mean, if you remember this, but like, what do you think, like, with the first, like, artistic thing that, like, really sparked something in you was? Or if not, like, the first thing, like, something early that you can remember that was, like, oh, this is meaningful to make this.
Well, for me, my uncle was an artist, and I think seeing his work and just knowing what he was capable of, sort of like I knew he was a really talented artist, and I don't know if it was like his personality or something, but I just like kind of wanted to be like that. I wanted to be able to draw and paint the way he did, I guess, and. But I don't remember much of some real milestone that something that I remember something about art. As you're a kid, you know very little about the different art movements, and
right.
I didn't learn that till college probably, but yeah, I just enjoyed drawing or painting or watercolors or even oils at that pretty young age. We're talking like 7, 8, 9. 10, maybe 11. And then 11 is kind of where I got into music. Maybe 10 or 11. So it kind of just crossed over. So I just kind of, the art fell to the side and music became my passion.
What was it about music that, like, it took over for you?
That's a tough one. Because getting into it, it was just a choice between sports. You know, in middle school you could do sports or band. Really, I mean, those are the two big things that you could do. You had a choice. So obviously, I'm not going to join sports. I got to do something else. And I guess I could have done art, but I think you had to take something like a choir or band or something. So I guess it was. I wanted an instrument that like would get the girls. Really. I think so. So it was saxophone or drums. Yeah, I thought, oh, those are really sexy instruments, and so the saxophone became my thing, and so I did that for 13 years or something. So
Really?
Yeah, so that was it.
I mean,
I was hooked like from after I started. Sorry, what were you saying?
No, it was just like, what was about this? Because to me, the saxophone, like when I think of the saxophone, I think about, I mean, maybe this is what it was for you. Like, there's always like, when I was a kid, there was always like a saxophone solo in whatever music was on the radio. Like,
Yeah, that was me.
yeah, like Careless Whisper or whatever. Like that was the thing. You're like, oh, I want to be that guy.
Yeah. Well, no, that to me was beneath the true jazz musicians that I aspired to be. So, I was listening to Charlie Parker and Coltrane and Miles Davis, and so I was into the jazz stuff from 6th grade, 7th grade. Like I was already starting to really get interested in it. But yeah, what brought me there was just kind of random. I had a choice to make. I had no musical sort of upbringing. In the house there wasn't much music or anything, so but it was like a decision, and I thought, well, I'll just pick this random instrument that is kind of cool, and I just kind of fell in love with it.
Yeah, but it is funny that you had these. I think I talk to a lot of different kinds of people on the show, but like I think you can roughly put people into two categories. One is like I knew what I wanted to do from like age 5. There's like, I think a handful of those people, and they're fascinating to me, but I think they're less interesting because they had a clear idea and they just like kind of monomaniacally followed that thing. And then there's a lot of other people who just like, they're slowly piecing these things together. Like you knew from your uncle that you liked art. There was something about, I mean, I'll ask you, what was it about? Like, what was your uncle's personality that you were like, oh, I kind of want to be like him?
He was very quiet. He's like didn't say much at all. It's probably like me now, but yeah, he's very quiet. So I didn't know him like that well when I was a kid, but he would be around at gatherings, and I knew what kind of art he made, and we'd go to his house and I'd see his studio and that sort of thing.
So there was just something attractive about like the studio itself, because like I'm talking to you in your studio now, and it's again, that's something that it's the tools of someone's craft, and to see it out in such a like arrayed in such a way, like in the background, if your guitars are there, your keyboard and your amps are there, and it's all arrayed in this, and I'm like, oh yeah, that like look, there's some kind of professionalness to it.
Yeah, well, it's got to be that way because you gotta. That's the way you use it, I guess. But it does. It's nice. It feels good. I love to be surrounded by equipment, the tools that you need. It's a nice thing.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? Like it feel like I can imagine like as a kid, I go to like when you went to your uncle's studio, you're like, there's something impressive about seeing that, as opposed to like if he had just been someone who like noodled on a guitar in his house and he just had like an acoustic guitar sitting on a stand. You know?
That's true.
I mean, I'm just guessing.
Yeah, because he had like a separate studio, like it was a add-on to the house, and like, I mean, I was a kid, so it seemed really quite large, and it seemed like there was like several French doors with like lots of sunlight, and it seemed, he was did a lot of airbrush, so he had his airbrush over there. Like, yeah, it wasn't a guy that just doodled or something. It was it was impressive, I guess, and.
Yeah, because I'm just trying to like put myself in your place as a kid and be like, you have this like very your uncle, this kind of stoic character, this quiet man who has this very impressive studio, and that like I can imagine it got in your head, and then as you get into music, all the pieces start to be put together.
Yeah, Yeah.
Like where did saxophone? How did it get from like I'm playing saxophone in my high school band to playing like indie rock in a band?
Yeah, that's a big shift. That was through, that was college. So at the end of college. So for when I was in middle school and high school and even college, I always had a dream of, I'll go to New York and I'll be a great saxophone player and I'll record albums. And, but after I got in college and I mean, I went to a very prestigious jazz school. There's like 100 saxophone players. Like most colleges have maybe 2 jazz bands. Mm-hmm. This had 9 jazz bands. So it's like really tough competition. And so every year you would, and that's where I met all the guys in Midlake at that university, and we were all jazz students. So, but every year you kind of see your hopes dwindling because you realize you're not the greatest. You're not gonna, you were something in high school, but man, there's a whole world out there that you can't compete. And so by my senior year of college, it just, I turned to band repair. So I took like repair woodwind instruments, like a class. So I something to fall back on. It's like, this New York thing isn't going to work out. And I need to have some kind of trade or something that I can do in life.
Oh, man.
And so I took a class in band repair, instrument repair. And so when I graduated college, that's what I did. For 5 years, I fixed instruments after college. But so sorry, your question, about getting from jazz into the more indie rock thing was meeting the guys, and it was after college, and you don't just go from jazz to rock or even soft rock, or whatever you want to call what we did. You don't just jump to that. It's because you have peers around you, especially in a jazz school. So the gateway to that is like Stevie Wonder is a good gateway. So use Stevie Wonder or like Herbie Hancock. You get a little fusion, maybe Pat Metheny or something. So you get a little fusion, straight 8 notes instead of the swung type thing. More funky. If you go the funky route, it's considered still like complex music or like something to grab onto. Where we always felt like the rock thing was kind of subpar or something. I mean, we didn't really feel like that. We just thought that other people thought that. And so it was something that we couldn't go there right away. You don't just put on the distortion pedal and do it. So you're showing people, your friends, like new songs and stuff. So it's kind of more funky. I was playing saxophone still. And we were basically a funk band, a lot of improvising and still with jazz roots, but we kind of were transitioning. We were we were listening to Radiohead, we were listening to Bjork. Those were the 2 biggies at that time. And I didn't like the sound of my voice, but I did write a song that needed to have a little demo done so that we could find a singer and give the singer the demo tape. And so I sung on the demo tape, and the guy said, well, you just keep singing until we find somebody. And then we never found anyone. Yeah.
I think this goes back a little to the second thing that I had wanted to talk about from your dad, trying a restaurant, it not working, trying another restaurant, it not working. That idea of the struggle, what you just said, where you're like, you don't just change from liking one kind of music to making one kind of music to making another kind of music. You don't just like turn a switch, right? You go through this whole process of like trying things out and like experimenting and seeing what feels right to you. I'm putting this on you, but if this feels right, tell me.
You're right.
Because I think your struggles like feels a lot like my own struggle when I was, I thought I was going to be I was in school, I was teaching, I was a professor of philosophy, and like I really thought that's what I was going to be, and it didn't. I could never do the thing I wanted to do, and eventually I had to go. Like they asked me to leave, but like. there was this weird thing, and I wonder if this is like it for you. But there was this weird moment of like clarity in when I knew that I was no longer going to be a professor. Of like, there was it was like very sad, and I remember crying. But there was also this moment of like, oh, I didn't want to be doing this, and I don't know what it was like for you. Like when what was the moment like when you, or what was the process like of you being like, I'm not going to go to New York and be like a jazz saxophonist.
Yeah, I don't remember it being very difficult. I think I just took it like it was fine. It was what it was. I could only play so well. I was blessed in a way, but there were some other things I was very short on, and so I just, it was okay. I didn't feel like I really missed out or anything. Because I thought I could still do what I love to do. It just wouldn't be on that level. I could still, I was planning on going back to San Antonio and have instrument repair business of my own, and then have a jazz quartet, and I could write my own music for it, and it would be great. So I could still do what I wanted to do. I could still make CDs. I just didn't have to be in New York. So it wasn't a huge blow, but it isn't I guess in a way, like ultimately, because you spent sometimes like 8 hours a day practicing, in high school, and like, I remember like 6-7 hour days just practicing all the time in the summers. Like it just ate up so much of my time. So much of the freedom was gone for practicing. And same with college. In college, it's like you have all your normal classes, but you're still practicing, 3 or 4 hours a day trying to get better and better. So it's a lot of time spent on that thing for it to not come to pass in the way that you wanted it to. Is kind of sad, I guess. But I didn't take it as sad. It wasn't too sad.
Well, I mean, was it just that like it wasn't not sad because there was like a dawning? Like at some point, I mean, again, I'm just putting myself in your place, but I'm like, oh, at some point, it was the same thing with me in like performance. Like I'm like a fine performer, like a comedic performer. I'm a great writer, but I'm like a fine performer. And at some point I had to reckon with that like, I'm like, okay, I'm never going to be great. So maybe I shouldn't concentrate. Maybe that's not what I should be concentrating on. Maybe I should really be putting my energy into writing.
Right. I feel that every day. I just feel like there's things that I've gifted with, and then there's things that I'm not. And I'm really trying to work on the things that I'm not so that I can do those things. But yeah, every day it's a struggle.
But you seem self-aware about that. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the flaws, and I'm fine with that.
Were you always like that? Like even when you were like a teenager, were you pretty self-aware about like what can I do and what can't I do?
Yeah, I would never beat myself up for things that I couldn't do. I would just try harder. Try to practice more, but it never got me down, really. Yeah.
I mean, do you come from a pretty emotionally healthy household?
Yeah. They're my parents are good folk. Yeah.
Well, I mean, because the thing that like I'm like, oh, I mean, maybe you have to be like that if you're like, if you are pursuing something like I want to build a restaurant, I want it to be a specific thing.
Yeah.
You kind of have to be honest with yourself when it's not working.
Yeah.
I mean, is that what your dad was like? I mean, what was his personality when you were growing up?
He just had to put in a lot of hours. We didn't. My brother, I think, takes more of a harder stance that my dad wasn't there as much. Like I didn't really feel that. I don't know. He was just working so much trying to get the restaurants going, but really, yeah, he was just he worked very hard, but he still loved us. I mean, we knew that he loved us. We would get punished for things that we did wrong, but we knew we were loved. So yeah, he was there. If we needed him, he'd be there.
Do you think your brother played more of a role in making you who you were as a person? Since your brother, I'm guessing your brother was there more.
No, what do you mean he was there more?
Well, like who do you think was like real, like when you were growing up, who was there? Who was like your, I don't know about role model, but like who do you think was there like instilling values in you?
Well, my parents.
So okay, so
Definitely.
they were around.
Yeah, we have a Christian background, so that was always instilled in me and my brother.
Like you went to church every week?
Yeah, it's very important. Not just the church going, but the belief in God, in Jesus, and so it's something that was there as early as I can remember. And getting into college, you have doubts and stuff, and you question that. But I think that's good to question. I think it's good. Like I don't want to just believe false things. Oh, a nice cat. Who's that? Sorry.
This is Squee. Hi, Squee.
Squee. Hi, Squee. Yeah, I don't want to believe it if it's false, but I do believe it's true, and I did have to question a lot of that. And I've listened to lots of atheist podcasts and Christian alike, and it's kind of, man, you can really be swayed one way or the other depending on who you listen to. It's really on the fence. Like you hear if you watch a debate, you're like, whoa, man, there's some good points on both sides. So but yeah, I think so. I guess in my life, although I was brought up with it, I still retained that after asking hard questions and wondering, is this, like, I don't want to just have the faith of my parents. I want it to be my own. Like, is this real? Is this true? Because I don't want to live my life on that. But I do believe it's true, and I do live my life to that.
It's interesting that there's like a lot of in your life. There are a lot of different things that you kind of struggled with to come to a conclusion about. Whether it's faith or whether it's like, what your own abilities are. But do you think that the faith underlying everything is that faith that gives you that kind of ability to reckon with yourself in an honest way?
Yeah, because I think if your God is music and you're failing at it, you're failing your God. Or that's the thing you live for. It's just eating you up inside, and you can't have peace until your God is something other than music. I mean, then you can put it on your wife, but then if your wife is your God, then she screws up, and then where are you? Or she dies, and then where are you? You've just lost your God. You've lost the thing you worship. Everything can be taken in this world. So to believe in something, and I'm not saying to live for the afterlife or anything like that, but to put, for me is putting Jesus in the center. Like I'm to get out of the way, like he's the center. Mm-hmm. So if I love Jesus, who I believe is God, first in my life, everything else flows from that. Then I can love my wife in the appropriate way. I don't place her up on a pedestal that's something that she can never, attain. I'm loving Jesus first, and everything else follows. So music is underneath that. So you could take music away from me. I'm not gonna die. It's fine. Right. And if I do die, I'm fine with that. So, right. Yeah, it's very freeing. Yeah. I
mean, when did you come to this deeper feeling of faith as an adult? Like, at what point in your life did you come to these kinds of conclusions? Because I'm very, the big thing that like I'm missing in my life, I've never really felt that kind of deeper connection to something larger, right? I've never felt that feeling of faith, and it's always something when I talk to someone on this show who feels it. It's something that I'm fascinated with, and I'm really curious about. How you came to feel it, or was it always there and you just had to uncover it?
Well, it's both feeling, I suppose, but it's also more for me. The important thing is evidence as well. Mm-hmm. Like feeling is great, but you can't sort of tell the next person that, oh, it's true because like I want it to be true, right? I don't just believe it because it makes me feel good.
Right.
Like, what is that? That's nothing. I want it to be true. So I'm going to need some feeling, right? It's going to work itself out in my life and others around me that I see. But it's also, I also need sort of evidence. And there's plenty of books written on that stuff where I'm no apologist for it, but I've read loads of it and seen loads of videos. And that's why I was saying I was listening to the atheist podcasts and getting that perspective as well, and seeing where the flaws are and what I believe and where the strengths are. And I think there's good foundation or good evidence to believe it's true that Jesus rose from the dead. And maybe that sounds weird to a lot of people, but so it's not just a feeling thing. If you're searching for this feeling, I can't say that I really feel it. Like, it's not like a date. It is. It's hard to describe because I don't know what it's like without it, because I've always had it. So to me, my wife, though, that I married 2 years ago now, when we met, she was agnostic. And so we started talking, and she has since become a Christian. And she said it was something like seeing things in black and white, and all of a sudden it's color for her. Like, I don't know that experience because I was just a kid when I came to Christ. So I don't know what that feels like to me. So when you say you don't feel anything, I don't know if I feel anything. Like I'm not all goosebumps all the time, or any sort of. There's not like a late night where I just feel like, the Holy Spirit is just in this room, and nothing really too magical like that. There was one experience that I had in the band when we were very young, and we were just we were all living together at the time. We were all Christians as well. That's kind of how the band got formed in the first place. But our bass player, he would get very angry sometimes, and his face was turning red. He was just very angry at something, and we just couldn't figure it out. And we're like, okay, well, let's pray about this. Let's just stop playing music. Let's sit down and pray. So there we were, just kind of sitting down in the living room, and then we're praying for him. And after, we open our eyes, and there's something like, it sounds ridiculous to say, but something kind of shot from one corner of the room into the bass player. And then something flew out of the bass player, and it seemed like it was light coming in and dark thing fleeing him to another corner. Well, I didn't say anything because it's like, well, maybe my eyes just saw, I don't know, maybe it's just my own imagination. But then about 10 seconds later, one of the other guys says, "Did you guys see something fly from the corner of the room into Paul and then out of him?" And it's like, wow. So that's always kind of stuck with me as like a big kind of spiritual moment of something, some sort of miracle or some sort of working from the, not of this world sort of thing. And so that kind of grounds me in some sort of like, I know that there's something there, but anyways, no.
I mean, it's really interesting because it's like, the way I've kind of been describing it as a feeling, but for the way that it is for you, it's not like it's inside. It is the way it is a state. It is you. It's deeper than a bodily feeling. It's a way. It's like a mode of being in some way. I
guess so. I don't even think about that. So maybe you're right. I don't really. Yeah. I mean, everything is sort of like, if I take a breath, it's like I'm thanking God. I'm like, I can walk, I can move. I have arms and eyes. I can see and smell and taste things, and I can hear, and I can play music, and I see the trees and the sunlight, and I'm like so thankful. Like, I know who made this. I know who made all this. That's pretty huge in a person's life. If you're pretty certain.
Yeah.
But how do you prove that? You can't prove it.
Right.
So I just hope there's good evidence for it, and I believe there is. So that's, but at certain times you feel a bit more, I suppose, but you don't know if that's just your emotions that particular day or not. And I don't want to just claim, oh, that's got to be God, unless it's like directly, like I hear something actually in my ear, which I've never heard. So,
What was the church that you grew up? I mean, is it just like, was it a denomination? Like, was it Pentecostal or was it?
No, it's non-denomination. Usually that's that's my wife and I go to in Chapel Hill, just a Chapel Hill Bible Church. So it's non-denomination. And that's kind of basically what I grew up in too. Yeah. Just a Bible church.
So, I mean, because like, there's also something freeing, I think, maybe. I mean, you could tell me. There's something about like the structures of I think like a lot of religion that get in the way of the believing part.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, without having those like the Catholic Church, without having those structures put on you, do you think it's a more, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but like seems like that you grew up in a more, again, this is coming from someone who's not really a believer, but like you grew up in a context of God's love in some way.
I did, yeah. It's all about grace. It's about grace. It's not like what Christianity should be based on what Christ has done for us. I mean, we're separated from God until Jesus dies for us. Mm-hmm. And so that is the payment. That's what's required to get us back in communion with the Father. Uh-huh. And so that's been done for us. So there's nothing I can do. I can't like be a good person and try to win God's favor. So there's no like, that's probably a different take. Like, yeah, like religion to me is not the greatest word. I don't like to, because that's like man working to earn God's favor, to make sure he's good enough to enter these gates. And like, that's not what it is for me at all. I don't see that. Like Christianity is about bowing the knee to Christ, putting him Lord, and that's it. Like he's done it. You rely on him, then he's your ticket to the Father. Mm-hmm. So that's it. So yeah, there's not this sort of I've got to pray 3 times a day, and I got to be good, and I can't swear, and I've got to jump through all these hoops, and no, that was never my understanding, and that's what you see on TV. That's what you see on movies. Right. It's all about this. They always have the weird Christian who's like, whipping themselves in the back, and they're like doing penance and all this. Like, what is that? That's not the Christianity I know. It's not about that. It's not about what you do. You don't work. Christianity isn't about like how good you can be. Christians are Christians because they know they suck. They know that they're not good enough. They're saying, hey, I'm a horrible person. I need help here. That's what a should be.
Well, I mean, what I like about that, I mean, there's something that this idea of striving to be a better person, as opposed to like, TV Christians are always like, they're always hucksters. I've never seen like a TV Christian that's not a huckster. Right?
Yeah, they're evil. Yeah.
Yeah. That's not like, or even just like, not just like TV, like fiction, but I mean, like when you see like a televangelist or a megachurch preacher,
yeah. Yeah, it's a little shady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like super, like if it wasn't religion, they would be selling some like snake oil, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I hate that stuff. I'm not sure God's too pleased with it either, but yeah, I don't like it. I mean, some of it I can't, I don't want a blanket statement, but yeah, some of it is definitely just out to get people's money.
Right.
Of course.
But but the way you're describing it seems like it's different. It's a striving to be better, to be a better person, period. Not striving to be a better person to get into heaven or to...
So the horse before the cart. So once you've realized what's been done for you, like other religions, it's usually man working their way to God, but Christianity is God's reaching down to man. It's saying, I'm doing this for you. He's coming to us. He came to earth. So it's the opposite. You don't work. The work has already been done. So once you realize that, and that really takes hold in your life, and you just weep. You're just like, wow, you actually died for me, and so that begins this relationship, this love, like that you want to be good, not because you think you're gaining something, but it's like your wife or something. If you love your wife, you can't wait to please your wife. Mm-hmm. You that's all it is. That's all it should be. It's not, you're not working to gain anything. You just do it out of your love for God. Should be. If anything else than that, I don't know if that would be very biblical. I don't know.
And it's interesting then that gives you a kind of like a or a foundation of, I don't know what word, I'll say peacefulness, but you can tell me what.
Sure.
That you can, that then your life can grow out of, and your music can grow out of that.
Yeah. It's a really strong foundation of everything. It permeates everything. It is everything. It's like the identity. Like my identity isn't a musician. My identity is in Christ, hopefully. And I want it to be. But it does affect everything that I do, say, or think it's there. You know, whether I'm thinking about it or not, it's always kind of over every aspect.
Yeah.
And and a lot of people would see that as not a freedom at all, and they would try to run from that. But I see it as complete freedom. I mean, we're all worshiping something. We're all worshiping something. Until you find the right thing to worship, you're not going to be free, I don't think. You can be worshiping whatever, however, you know, you are at your job, or how you are with your friends, or how you look at a board meeting, or something. You're always worshiping something, or how much money you can make, or how great your family can be, it's all worship. It's all gods. They're all idols. And so until you worship the correct thing, you're not going to have true peace. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I've said a bit much here. I don't know.
No.
But that's the way I see it.
No, I'm really interested because I'm also curious then about like, how does this affect the way you create? Because something I was reading, I was trying to read articles on you or find some biographical information about you before we started, just so I had something to start from. And one of the things I was reading is like, you know, like when you're writing music, and this is paraphrasing, so tell me where I go wrong. But like, I remember something you had said in some article was like, you know, it's not perfectionism, but there's something about it. Like there's some vision of a song you have in your head, right? And this really resonated with me because when I'm writing something or when I'm creating something, I always have this vision in my head, and it's like all consuming in some way. And I'm trying to approximate the vision in my head in whatever I'm doing, whether I'm writing a song or a script or whatever it is. I'm trying to get as close to whatever's in my head as I possibly can. And it becomes like where like I have to, like, if I'm working with other people, I have to be like, no, it can't be that. It has to be this. And I get I personally, I've been in therapy, so I've done a lot of work on it, but like, it used to be where I would be like, no, it has to be like this. And if it's not, get the fuck out of here, whatever. Right. But like, is in some, like, how does that work for you? Like when you have something you want to create, do you have that vision you're trying to approximate? When, you know, this idea of like this foundation of peacefulness, does that, and your belief and your faith and I say those words, but it's really like the totality of who you are, right? How does it work with how you create things?
It's sort of like, it's something that's always there, but it's not something that's very conscious of. Like I'm not I don't know how to describe that. It's not like I pray beforehand where I'm like, okay, well, that's not true. I do pray beforehand sometimes or midday or whenever, but the act of doing anything means that my mind is taken off of God. I'm not like, I can't do two things at once, right? Like it's more like you're, I was trying to think of an analogy for it. Would be like you're reading a book in the rain and you've got the umbrella, right? But you don't really realize that the umbrella is there the whole time. You're just focused on the book. You're able to do that thanks to the umbrella. And you while you're reading the book, you're not thinking of the umbrella. Like I do music and I'm not thinking necessarily about God, and I'm not necessarily trying to get God into the music, but it's gonna happen. It's got to come out. So yeah, I don't feel like there's like a spiritual thing, I guess. Like when I'm making music, I don't ever. It's tough, man. Music is really tough for me. It's like it's so difficult. I mean, I should have given up by now, but I'm still at it. You know, what is it, like 7 years since I left the band and have tried to make my own thing, and so it's really taxing. But
it's like your father a little bit, right?
yeah. Yeah, you keep coming back to it. You've got to get it, like no matter what it takes. And so, I mean, I do feel like that I do have some gift though with it. So I don't want to just give up. It's not like I'm not grasping at straws. Really, it's not hopeless, but it's just very difficult. I don't have all the pieces in place. Like, you know, you'd have a producer, an engineer, you know, a band to play. When you're doing all that by yourself, and you're very particular on that vision and trying to nail that, it's very hard to do all of that stuff. I'm just not good at every aspect of it. I'm good at some things, but not all of it. So, yeah, forgot what I was saying in the beginning, but
No, I really, I mean, I really identify with that because like there's a lot of, again, because I have like a particular vision of things. So I just end up doing stuff on my own, and then I have to learn all the parts of whatever, you know. I can write and I'm very good at writing, but I, you know, like say producing this podcast or whatever, or producing at all, right? I don't really, I can do the basics, right? But I don't know how to like make a thing. I don't know how to make a waveform sound good. I know like how to throw compression on something, but I don't know how to like.
That's good.
I don't know how to tweak all, like when I see like real engineers tweak the certain, like they are like, oh yeah, no, I know the kilohertz of this and I know this and that. I'm like, all right, sure, I guess. You know, they have this like deeper knowledge of all the like other aspects of it that I don't have, but I have to like, it's like I'm a jack of all trades and I have to like have that stuff to do the things I want to do, but I'm proficient, but not great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it takes so much more time to do things. So I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here. And I always feel about 10 years behind where I should be. Like I'm 44 now. I feel like I should have known all of what I know now. Like at 34, I'm always 10 years behind. It's kind of dumb.
I'm the exact same way.
I mean, I do feel like I'm improving in areas, but, yeah, it's really tough. So, yeah, I don't really have that's what we're talking about, this spiritual thing in within that, in creating and stuff. I don't really like some people, like very creative people, they would be like, oh, I feel God is in the music. He's in every note and stuff. And I have a general sense that, yeah, well, that's true. I feel like he's created frequencies and everything that is needed to go into this, but I don't just hear it back and imagine God is in it, like in some way. Although, I don't know. So I don't have some sort of spiritual enlightenment or something when I play the music back. It's not right. That sort of thing. It's just a general sense of that God is there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I wasn't trying to like. I didn't think it was like some kind of like religious experience to play music.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But like that wasn't what I was going. But like there is a certain sense where, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but like where like if it's in you, you can't help, and you're being honest when you're making music, it can't help but flow into the music, right?
Yeah, it's true. There's no. If I wasn't a Christian, then the music wouldn't sound this way.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
There's no way it would sound this way.
Yeah, because it's like, again, I mean, I guess I say this because like, if you were a dishonest person, you could make whatever. Like I see psychopaths out here in Los Angeles, and they just make whatever. They don't have actual human feelings, and so they just can mimic whatever they want. They could be very good comedians or whatever, but they're just mimicking human emotion when they're making whatever they're making.
I wish I could do that. Yeah. I can't lie or anything. I'm a horrible liar.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems empty, but who knows? I see these
Yeah.
people out here, and maybe they have great lives. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But we're coming up at the end of the show.
Cool.
How do you feel about the talk? This is I think you were a little nervous coming in, but I found this really interesting.
Yeah. Well, cool. I mean, it's up to you if you feel like if I've given you enough info. I don't know. I thought it would be. I don't know. It's just, I feel like it's boring. My upbringing and life. It's like not much to talk about at all. So I don't really feel like that kind of really creative person. So I was just like, oh, I'm gonna bore the audience. But
I don't think so.
You're fine.
I especially like I said, around the topic of religion, as someone who hasn't really felt it, I especially since it's so I don't even want to say foundational, but it's like it flows through into your music, that I think that's a really important thing to discuss.
Good, yeah.
Yeah. Wait.
That's good.
When you said your parents, sorry, this is like, because in my head I was like halfway through we were talking, I was like, wait, do your parent when they went through Waco, that wasn't like Branch Davidian times, was it?
No, I think that was way later.
Okay, I just want to make
when was
sure.
that? I don't remember when that. Yeah, if I say Waco, everyone thinks
Yeah.
that. But yeah, it's no, it wasn't that time. We were no part of the Branch Davidians.
That was like early 90s, I think. If I remember correctly.
No, this would have been like the late 70s, early 80s.
Well, I just wanted to make sure because I'm like, interesting. Tim, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
I really appreciate it. And,
all right, man.
Stay safe, stay healthy.
You too.
All right.
You too.
And
all right, man.
We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye, oh, 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 bye. Bye.